Adam is the first investor in Ripio, and Tim is the second. So the checks were one after the other. I think, I've been named several times. We're one of the first crypto companies in Latin America. We today serve more than 20 million users across direct B2C and B2B. Many companies and some of the largest companies in the region use our infrastructure to offer crypto. And I think Tim and Adam are people that really are seeking into the future and what is possible. When I got into crypto, being from Argentina, seeing all and suffering all the instability and being a nerd, when I saw it for the first time, it made a lot of sense. And very early to say, well, I need to dedicate myself into this. And that was end of 2012, beginning of 2013. At that time, there were not that many people, especially in BC, that were looking into Bitcoin. And by chance, I saw an article where Adam was named and saying that he was looking to invest into Bitcoin, and he was talking in an article about his recent investment into Coinbase. So I started to hunt him down, and I went into every conference there was in the Silicon Valley, every meetup, and I will pitch him I think I pitched Adam 4 times. So it's not something that. So I don't know if he invested through conviction or to try to get away of me. But I do see something in them that I admire a lot, which is that a lot of investors don't do the work. I think they really do the work. They study a lot. Like Adam said, that he's not the one that needs to know about what is being sold. But at that time, there were some of the few investors in the Silicon Valley that really understood and studied Bitcoin at that time. And I think we are now in a decade after. We're in a very interesting point. I think this technology is getting embedded and being adopted across everything. And I think it's going to really change entirely the capital markets and how humans interact and collaborate. And I think we're starting to see how every asset is going to be tokenized. From SiloReal, they're working on real world assets. We see how much adoption there is now on stable coins. We're doing hundreds of transactions per second in the platform, and this is people interacting. And I think we're in that point where everything gets into connected into the internet and being registered through blockchains. And I think that could be an introduction into asking Tim what he thinks about what is the future, and start a conversation about how this is going to continue from here into the next decade of adoption. What do you think, Tim?
Terrific. Well, first I want to say thank you, Sebastian. We're big fans. Adam and I are big fans. Not just for having started Ripio and making it such a huge success, but also you gave me a window that helped me in my decision making on not necessarily buying Bitcoin because I already had a bunch, but in sticking with it. And that was when we met. You said, yes, my family has built a fortune 3 times in my lifetime, and each time I've lost it to currency manipulation, and I'm only 30 years old. and that has stuck with me, and I thought, wow, people really need this. And I said, but Bitcoin is volatile, and you said something like, it's a lot more stable than the Argentinian peso. And I thought, wow, this is really important to a lot of people around the world, and it was going to be the currency of the future, and it clearly is now. It's the currency of the now. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. You asked about my view of the future. I have a pretty clear view of the future. I don't usually have a good, clear view of what's going on right now, who did what to whom. But I have kind of a good view of the future because I really only identify with entrepreneurs, and they usually have a great view of the future. So if you're talking specifically about Bitcoin's future, I think it's extraordinary. I think it's going to be one of those times where we're taking an anthropological leap forward. We're taking this leap where the world is going to be wealthier because the more deals we all do with each other and the less friction there is to a currency, the better off we all become. And currently, even though it feels like we don't have much friction, we have the banks and governments getting in the way of our doing deals together. And that includes, when I do a deal, I bring in an accountant, a lawyer, an auditor, a bookkeeper, a transfer agent. All of these people have to be involved whenever I do a transaction. But with Bitcoin, it's just me and the partner that I'm doing the deal with. And that frictionless activity could actually increase our global economy about tenfold. Just that difference in reducing the friction. And so I'm very excited about what's going to happen. Now, I would say that every year from now until 10 years from now, or maybe even further, we have about a 10% chance where people ask me, well, what's Bitcoin going to be worth? But they're asking me against the dollar. And I'm thinking, well, maybe against a dozen eggs. But against the dollar doesn't make any sense because Bitcoin over time is overtaking the dollar as something that is more frictionless, more open, more global, more transparent, keeps perfect records, all those things. And so over time, it's taking over the dollar. When I can buy my food, my clothing, my shelter all in Bitcoin, when I can pay my taxes in Bitcoin, automatically on the blockchain, I won't need that accountant, the lawyer, the auditor, the bookkeeper, the transfer agent, whatever. And when I see it, other people are going to see it too, and we're going to have this kind of, I'm hoping it's a gradual thing where you slowly realize the dollars aren't that important and the Bitcoin is, but I think there may be a moment where there's sort of a run on the banks, on the dollars, on the pesos, and where people are saying, get me out of this, I've got to be in Bitcoin, and you don't want to be panicking at the bank the day that happens. So make sure you all, who has Bitcoin right now? Okay, who doesn't? Get going. And you will thank me later, you will thank me later, you will thank me later. I have all my businesses that I fund, they are all, they used to have their money all in one bank. And he's already given up. And when Silicon Valley Bank went out of business, I got about 14 phone calls from companies that said, all our money is in Silicon Valley Bank, and payroll is Monday and it's Thursday. Please help me, get me out of this. So I in almost every case, I offered up their payroll for the next whatever period of time on draconian terms, by the way. And so then Monday came around and the U.S. government bailed out Silicon Valley Bank and everybody was back in business. But it made me say, anytime I fund a new company, you need a treasury business. You need to monitor your treasury. And they said, okay, what should we do? And I said, we'll put some of it into a big bank. They say, oh, yeah, of course. Then I say, put some of it in a small bank. And they say, why? I say, because the U.S. government can bail out a small bank, not a big bank, and then put some into Bitcoin, because if all the banks go under, you will still be able to pay your responsibility and make payroll for all your employees for the next 2 or 4 weeks. So make sure you have it. Now, as an individual, you own no Bitcoin. When there is a run on all the banks, you will have nothing. You need to be able to pay for your family for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, while you get your business, your life back together. So make sure you own some. Anyway, that's a thought. So that's my future, and I'm looking at it, and I'm saying it's getting more and more real, because we're getting closer to, look, I accept Bitcoin for my tuition. I accept Bitcoin for rent. I accept Bitcoin for just basically everything I do. And it turns out it's worked out very well for me, because, some wonderful guy just got a Draper University education for about $4 million, because he gave me it in Bitcoin about 8 years ago. So it is going to be really important, and measuring it against the dollar or the peso or whatever is almost irrelevant now, because it is the currency of the future. It is the economic driver of the future, and I think get on board.
Yeah.
Got something more to say?
Yeah. I'm already on board. Thanks to you, because we met a couple of years and you told me, buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I did so.
I wear this everywhere so people can't blame me when they're running at the bank.
Well, we, in SiloReal, what we decided to do is to help farmers. The agribusiness sector is a very important sector in Argentina. It's one of the motors of the economy. And farmers have a very important mission, which is feeding the world. And they have these incredible assets, but they're kind of invisible. So when an asset is invisible, it has two main problems. It has no liquidity, and it's at risk. So we provide technology that makes that asset visible, and we end up connecting the asset to lenders, to buyers, and to insurance companies. So that makes an incredible opportunity for all these farmers. In Argentina, only in Argentina, we have $80 billion in assets that until now they were invisible. If you talk about Brazil, you have $320 billion. If you talk about the lending market in Argentina for the agribusiness sector is $12 billion. And comparing to the assets you have, it's 7 to 1. So you could increase the lending market and lending players also that until now they were not connected to those assets. So I think that blockchain and Bitcoin would be an amazing opportunity for the agribusiness sector to boost the sector and to make Argentina great again.
I know, I've got the hat.
Yeah. Tim, to go really fast into an interview, so we don't have much time. But maybe we can take one question, like someone that has something very pressing to ask us, and we can.
Yeah. One other thing is that I'm waiting for the day, and I'm hoping it comes soon, because we do have the Doge people doing interesting things in the U.S., and they tend to lead regulation around the world. I'm hoping to have a moment where I can invest my fund, raise a fund in Bitcoin, invest it all in Bitcoin, have my companies pay their employees and suppliers all in Bitcoin, and then have the whole thing on a big smart contract. And if I do that, all the money goes where it's supposed to go all the time, and nobody has to watch over it. It goes into the taxes are paid, the limited partners, our investors are paid. Everything gets paid automatically on the blockchain, and I save millions of dollars in accounting, auditing, bookkeeping, legaling fees, and everybody's happier. So I think some cool things are happening, and the regulators have to catch up. They have to realize that, like, let the economy grow in this way, because it is going to be a much bigger and better economy because of it.
As an entrepreneur and into people here that are mostly leaning towards doing things, I think we're in a moment that is pivotal, where up until now we have been doing a first phase of crypto, which looks like the beginning of the internet, where if you wanted to connect to the internet, you had to dial up on a phone line and have a modem that makes noises and connects into over the phone line to the internet service provider. And through that, it was super slow, but you were able to connect to the internet, and got into this incredible universe with so much knowledge. I think in crypto we are in a similar phase. We at Ripio, the company is called Ripio because we're making roads to access to crypto, and we had to do it on top of the existing infrastructure. We had to use banks and bank transfers and all these mediums, so that we could give this dial-up access into crypto. And I think now we're in that moment where we're starting to build proper infrastructure. The internet then, after proving itself, started to have broadband. And with broadband, we started to have real applications with good infrastructure. And now it's backwards. Now we use WhatsApp to make a phone call. And we make phone calls on top of the internet and not the other way around. We no longer use landlines to make phone calls. We use the internet to make all our communications on top of proper infrastructure. And I think in crypto we're in that moment. We are now building up proper infrastructure. We have Bitcoin, we have all the real world assets that are starting to come up. Stablecoin usage in Latin America is ginormous. And that, I think, is a window into what is going to be the future. And I think a lot of this wave of tokenization and using the blockchain for everything, from Doge into looking what the government is doing and having it audited, I think is going to touch everything. And there is a tremendous opportunity to go and seek problems and solve them with much better infrastructure. And also looks like there are better wins on regulation and legislation that is going to make all that possible. But Tim has to go, so we'll close it here. And thank you for listening to us and the time.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Tim.
You're
Thank you.
awesome.